Hi, it's Gary David again, professor of sociology and experience design, bringing another design video to you. If you like this content, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you share with your friends this kind of content, and also make sure you comment down below. It seems pretty obvious to say that the field of design is pretty big and has a lot of different players and a lot of different approaches within it. But I think overall, we can talk about design as when we're doing design, when we're designing something, we're looking to achieve some particular outcome through the design that we're creating. But this raises a larger question. And that question is, whose outcome? I mean, who gets to prioritize what outcome we're looking for? If there's a variety of different outcomes and some of those outcomes can be competing, then how do we decide which outcome we're looking for? So we can say design is always about making decisions and weighing these different options. And additionally, design can involve politics. You could even say that the process of design is inherently political. By that, I mean there are people with influence and power that can influence the options that are selected and which kinds of options are left out. Therefore, when we're doing design, no matter what kind of design we're doing, we have to consider what kind of design we're doing, for whom are we designing, and what outcomes are we prioritizing through our design? To explore that question, or I should say those questions, I use this design matrix that lays out 4 types of design, or 4 approaches to design: designing at, designing for, designing with, and designing against. Let's take a quick look at each and talk about what they mean. Designing at involves the designer using their expertise to create something for an audience without necessarily asking them what they need or what they want. We can think here of engineers, and no offense to the engineers out there, who are creating a solution, creating a design based on what they believe will work the best or is the most needed or is the best solution for whatever situation they're designing for. But I'm not just going to throw engineers under the bus on this one, because professors do it as well. When we create a syllabus or we create a class, we do so based on what we believe students need to know about a particular topic based on our knowledge of that topic. Students are rarely, if ever, consulted in terms of what topics will be covered, what materials will be read, what assignments will be given, how those assignments might be evaluated, and overall how the class is going to be structured. We don't consider them really that much. We might think about what they might like or not like, but really it's our knowledge that's driving the design. We are, in a sense, in a very real sense, designing at the students, giving them our designs, whether or not it fits their particular needs. Not that there's anything inherently wrong with this. Sometimes designers can know more about what is needed than those for whom the design is intended. I probably know more about the topic that I'm teaching than the students do. Otherwise, why are they in the class? Or we might create something so new that an audience doesn't even know they wanted it or need it. Steve Jobs is famous for talking about the iPod was not created in a focus group. It was something that no one was asking for, but yet it was something that was designed thinking that people would want it. And so while we might consider designing at not inherently a bad thing, we have to be very careful when we're designing at, because our expertise might cloud our ability to listen and understand what our audience wants and what we should be doing for them. And clearly, designing at involves a certain power differential where we as the designers hold all the power. We're the ones in control of the process. And as a result, the audiences are by and large left out until the design is done. So this moves us into designing for. And we can think of designing for as being something that typically is associated with approaches like design thinking. For those who aren't familiar, design thinking is a 5-step process aimed at designing through empathy of the audience for whom the design is intended. And to get at empathy, we conduct research that allows us to better understand our audiences.
We here at Ford would like to thank you all for agreeing to be part of this focus group. Your ideas will actually be used in helping us create a brand new model.
Understand their worlds, understand their needs, and give us a better idea of what we should be designing.
Extra cup holders.
And a phone holder.
A good steering wheel that doesn't fly off while you're driving.
As well as coming up with hopefully pretty creative solutions to deliver what those needs are through our design, to make sure that the solutions we create, the products we develop, are in line with what it is that they need.
Comfy seats.
A good steering wheel that doesn't fly off your hand while you're driving.
And there's a lot of value in doing that kind of work. Through knowing them, we are in a better position to know what we can do for them. But at the same time, their involvement, the audience's involvement in the design process is pretty limited. Audience members can be included in the design process through evaluating prototypes or giving feedback when testing products. But that's kind of it. They aren't involved in doing much beyond being researched and giving some feedback. And I'm not saying that there's anything inherently wrong with that. It's important to include people for whom we are designing. But it's a fair question to ask, how much and to what extent? How much involvement should they have? How much a role should they play? As designers, are we in a better position to do analysis, to come up with ideas? Or should we involve the audiences for whom we're designing at a deeper level? And this is where we have designing with, which involves including our intended audiences as partners in the design process, as true collaborators. We can think of such approaches as participatory design or participatory action research, in which the audience for whom the design is intended is part of the research and design process. Collaboration here is important in these approaches, and not only for the sake of collaboration, because power inherent in the design process is more fully shared. Sociologist William Foote White, and I am a sociologist, so I always like to plug sociologists wherever I can, pioneered participatory action research, using it in factories and different kinds of work environments to help empower workers to better understand their situation and to create solutions to improve their situation, to improve the organization, to improve their work life. There's a lot of material written on participatory action research. One article in particular in Nature describes participatory action research as, quote, involving the participation and leadership of those people experiencing issues who take action to produce emancipatory social change through conducting systematic research to generate new knowledge. We can also look at fields like design justice and design ethics as another part of designing with. The Design Justice Network, for instance, states their goal of, quote, bringing for worlds that are safer, more just, more accessible, and more sustainable, a process that, quote, is truly led by the experiences and brilliance of those who are marginalized by interlocking systems of oppression. So designing with, through whatever approach you're using, participatory design, participatory action research, design justice, it's really about making not just better designs, but making longer lasting social change, making societies and social situations better. But it also is about making better designs in which stakeholders are included, not just seeking their input after the design is done, but from conceptualizing research to conducting research to analyzing the research, coming up with the design ideas, the prototypes, testing it, and then also deciding how it can be best implemented. The people for whom design is intended and any stakeholders that might be affected are partners in this process. Above all, designing with involves being inclusive and equitable, acting in ways that are ethical and just, in which we consider power as a fundamental part of design and something that should be shared more fully with those affected by our designs. Finally, we have designing against, which involves using design to manipulate, to disempower, and even disenfranchise the audiences of the design. It's using knowledge of the social sciences, whether it be psychology, sociology, or even anthropology, to understand human behavior for the purposes to design in a way that takes advantage of people, that leads to a targeting of their vulnerabilities as people to get them doing what the designer wants them to do. There has been increasing attention given to these deceptive patterns, or what's being known as dark patterns, in relation to how these designs are being created and what their impact is. For instance, the website deceptive.design inventories and chronicles examples of dark patterns used by many corporations. And if you go to their website, you can see some rather big household names among the list of companies that are using these dark patterns to manipulate customers and get customers to do what they want customers to do. Even the US government, and in particular the Federal Trade Commission, has brought attention to the issue of deceptive practices used by designers. In their staff report titled Bringing Dark Patterns to Light, published in 2022, the FTC states, quote, "For decades, unscrupulous direct mail marketers and brick and mortar retailers have relied on design tricks and psychological tactics such as pre-checked boxes, hard to find and read disclosures, and confusing cancellation policies to get consumers to part with their money or data. As more and more commerce has moved online, so too have these manipulative design practices, termed dark patterns, only they have grown in scale and sophistication, creating ever greater challenges for consumers." It's important to understand that not only can these practices of designing against be used to affect consumer behavior, but also a wider set of behaviors. Manipulation of emotion through social media postings, the design of apps, and the design and deployment of other kinds of technology can have hugely disruptive impacts on society and social relationships. If you know how humans behave and act, know what their vulnerabilities are, and you can design, you can wreak a lot of havoc through your designs. And it seems that more and more, what we see out there in the design space is designing against, intended to manipulate people to get them to act in a particular way and to motivate their behaviors to serve the ends of the designer or whoever's paying the designer. So, given this design matrix of designing at, for, with, or against, what kind of design are you doing? What kind of designer do you aspire to be? How do you use tools and even powers of design to either design at, for, with, or against? How do you think about these four parts of this matrix? And what role ultimately do you see design playing in society? I'd love to hear what you think, so please make sure you provide a comment down below and you share your thoughts on this design matrix and how you see design affecting our society.